All right, what we worked on yesterday, there were so many problems in the file that I gave you and what we did that I started all over. It now works. So notice if I put in Harry Potter, it gives me all the Harry Potter movies. And if I click on movie details, it shows me whatever I ask it to show me from there. So this is what we're going to do today. I'd like you, if you don't mind, to take the whole thing we used yesterday, just get rid of the whole folder, okay? And we are just going to start fresh. I've got a working version right here, so if for some reason I screw up, because I usually do, I got this to go back to. All right? All right, I didn't end up putting as many comments in there as I wish I would have, but I think it'll still be fine. Okay, so let's start by doing this. You know the drill by now. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call it movie app. Movie-app. That's it. All right? And I've still got this open, so... Okay, so now with movie app, I'm going to double click on the folder, right mouse click on the folder, do a git bash here, and do our old npx create react app dot. Okay, and then hit enter. Now again, unfortunately it takes some of us longer than others to get this ready. Now yours took a while yesterday, maybe it won't today. I think a couple days ago, Gabriel's took a while, and then yesterday it seemed like it did. So hopefully this won't take too long. Okay? All right. You can see it's already building. I've already got most of my package.json file there. It was funny because I went back and looked at the code, and I kept thinking, why am I having all these problems? One of the biggest problems that I had, not you probably didn't, but I did, is I'd spelled the name of the website wrong. Instead of having, whatever it is, MNODB or whatever, I left the N off of there, and it was screwing everything up. So again, that's on me. Hopefully today it'll go, I'm not saying without a hitch, but with few hitches. How's that? The job fair seemed to be a success this morning. There were not very many people there. There was one company there, some dynamics company, I don't remember the name, and a couple of the students were talking to them. They were looking for C# programmers. So there actually was somebody there, all right, who, I guess had something to do with this program, but by and large it didn't. And not only that, even with that company, many of the companies, what they did was they brought HR people in. And I don't want to belittle HR people. They have we've got a terrific HR person at Rankin. We really do. I mean, she's amazing. I'll go and email her and I'll think, well, she'll get back to me, tomorrow or whatever. 10 minutes later, I've got the answer. That's just her. She's just so on the ball. But when you're looking for a job in the IT area, ideally what you want to do is you don't want to go through a human resource person. You want to go right to the IT manager. You'd rather go to the person that you're going to be reporting to, if at all possible. So, all right, so mine's finished. Again, yours may or may not have finished yet. Is everybody's finished? Yours is finished? Yours has not. Is yours finished?
I've not finished.
Okay, then we'll wait just for a couple minutes here. And if I see Mr. Corrigan stop back, I might have to take a break for a minute, talk to him, because I had to talk this morning to the VP. One of the VPs was here, and I had to talk with him. Then I also found out, I think this is interesting, you may or may not, but there is sort of, at least, an issue with putting this program online. People who are in the military who are getting VA benefits, they will get 100% but for payment for classroom classes, but only 50% for internet. So we have to try to arrange something where one time a semester we meet here. then it's considered a blended class because you had one actual meeting and then they can get paid 100%. Sounds silly almost, but you know, it is what it is, as they say. So, yours come up yet?
No.
Yours?
No.
Okay.
Oh, it's close though.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
Not just yet.
Okay. We should be able to finish this today with no problem. And then tomorrow, like I said, we're going to, at least for a while, we're going to watch some more of those, that Scrimba series. Okay. Now, I'm going to clean this up like I did yesterday, but I'm going to clean it up right from here rather than doing it inside of code. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open my source folder, double click on it, and I'm going to get rid of the stuff we don't need, which is app.css, app.js, app.test.js, logo.svg, reportvitals.js, and setup tests. So the only thing I'm keeping is index.css and index.js. Everything else in there I'm getting rid of. Boom, delete, and it's gone. All right? Okay, next I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add a folder called components. All right? So in my source, I added a folder named components. Right now in source, I have three things. An empty folder named components, index.css, and index.js. I'm going to double click on my components folder and I'm going to very quickly add two files. All right. Now, you may or may not know this, but when we work from the terminal, basically what you're doing is you are able to put in commands that are similar to Unix or Linux commands. Right? You may or may not have been aware of that. You may or may not care. All right, but what I want to show you is this. So I'm here, right? And if I type in ls right now, it shows me what I've got. So if I do cd, which means change directory, to source, now I'm in the source folder. Does that make sense? So if I do another ls, notice what's there. Index.css, index.js, and components. Now, you know this already. I'm in the components folder now up here. So I can do a cd to components. And I just want to show you, I'm going to create these two files in two different ways to show you that there's different ways that you can do it. All right, one is the way that I've been doing it, which is to just come in here, I'm in the folder, and I'm going to right mouse click, choose new, choose text document, and the first one we're going to create here is going to be called movie list.js. It'll beep at me, it'll say, do you want to change this? I do, so I just hit enter. All right, so that I've done one now, and that's totally fine. Totally fine to do it that way. But the other way that you can do it if you want to is more the Unix or Linux way. So I'm in components. So again, if I type in ls, there's my file. I can just say, the other one we're going to create is called moviedetails.js. So I can just, from here, I can type in touch moviedetails.js and hit enter, and you'll notice, now I've got the other one. So there's two different ways that you can add information. There really is no difference between them. All right, probably if you were more Linux, Unix people, you'd probably do it that way. All right, and that'll work virtually all the time. Anytime you bring up a terminal. So I mean, you can just be working on a regular website, for example, if you want to, and you can bring up the terminal and you can go and set up a directory structure and create files and do whatever if you so would want to do that. All right. Now I'm going to do here. I'm going to say a cd to slash. Oh, I thought that would work, but it didn't. Okay. So let me do a cd to dot dot. Now I'm back up at my source. I want to go back up one more there. So I'm back up at the movie app. Okay. And I'm going to clear this, and just for now, I'm not going to do anything in here. All I wanted to do was show you that there's multiple ways of doing that. That's all. Now I'm going to take this movie app as we've been doing, and I'm going to open it with code. So you already know this, that it's been quite a bit cleaned up. All right? You know, our source has got just these two files in that folder. Our public we haven't touched. All right, and again, because, I mean, at a minimum, you should go into index.html, and at a minimum, I'm going to change the title here to React Movie App. You know from watching me do this that I don't like all these extraneous comments in here. Maybe they don't bother you, and if they don't, hey, fine. Well, not a problem. But like I said, to me, they're just a waste of space. All right, so I'm getting rid of them. So I've cut this way down, as you can see. All right. And I've changed my title to React Movie App. You can call it whatever you'd like to call it. If Angie wants to call it Angie's Movie App, that's totally fine. All right. So I've got that. But before I go save this and get out, I'm going to do one more thing. And that is, I'm going to go out to getbootstrap.com. All right. And I'm going to go down under here, because this is the only thing we're going to have to do from here. I'm going to go to the Get Started. That's right here. I'm going to click the Get Started button. I'm going to go down and find a little bit down, maybe a third of the way down, where it says CSS, and I'm going to copy that link right here under CSS. So I'm going to click Copy. All right, so again, under Get Started, the introduction, I went down to CSS, and I copied that link. And I'm going to put that link right here. Now, it's going to wrap, and it's going to wrap and look funky, so I'm going to do a View Word Wrap. You don't have to do that. But I just wanted you to see that now it's all in here. So it put it over 4 lines. Yours probably is over 1 line, which is totally fine. All I've done is I've turned on Word Wrap with View Word Wrap. That's it. All right. So we went into our index.html and we added this link. And why did we add that link? So that you guys are going to be able to go back. Ours isn't going to be formatted at all. I already showed you what mine looks like, and it's not very nice. It's not very well formatted. That's going to be one of your jobs, is to format that. Okay? All right, so now I can do a file save, and there really is nothing else I'm going to need from this file. I don't think I'm going to have to touch that file again, to be honest with you. All right. So one thing that we must do right away, why? Because it's a good idea to do it right away, and that is to go into index.js here, and let's get rid of lines 4 and 5 that are right here, because we no longer have that app and we no longer have the report vitals. So I'm highlighting them both and hitting delete, so they're gone. And then on the bottom too, I'm getting rid of that. So you can see now how I have, again, thinned down, so to speak. All right, I have thinned down the app. All right, what we want to have come up here is not going to be app, because app doesn't exist anymore. So this will be movie list right here. So I can double click on that and just type in movie list like that. All right. Now I'm not going to, for lack of better words, go through the monotony like we did yesterday of putting an H1 tag into our movie list.js file and then running it again, etc. We're just going to start coding. All right. So with this in here, and there'll be a few other things we're going to have to change in here as we get going. But for now, I'm just going to do a file save, and that's fine. I can just close it for now. Anybody need this? Everybody has this? All right. And again, I know I mentioned this to you yesterday. I'm just saying it again, and that is there's nothing special about the word app, okay? And it's totally fine. We could have left it in there as app. It would have been fine, all right? But I figured we're building 2 components, and these are going to be 2 different pages on our site. The first page, or this is the second page really, is going to show us the details. So if we've got a bunch of different movies showing, I don't know if I still have that one up or not, this, all right, what's going to happen here, I think if I click back I'm going to get an error because I didn't. But when I click movie details like this, it's going to bring up the movie details page. This is the movie list page right here. It's a list of all the movies that meet my criteria. Does all that make sense to everybody? All right. Okay. So let me close that. All right. So I'm going to bring up the movie list right now. All right. And we are going to start making some changes to it. All right. So you already know this. Typically we come in, whoops, not there. We come in up here and we import possibly React from React. I don't even know if we're going to need that React. If we don't, there's some stuff in here we will need. So we can leave that there. It'll be fine. All right. But I'm going to come in. This will be a function-based component. So I'm going to say function, movie list, paren. Now, and then at the bottom, of course, we're going to okay? I'm not even going to worry about sticking a flaming semicolon in this file. I'm going to try to do this. This is actually the first time I'm trying this with no semicolons whatsoever. All right, then I don't have to worry about, do I need a semicolon here or do I not need a semicolon here? So I'm not putting in any of them. All right, so what we're going to put in here then is, remember, we need to have a return, and we want to return multiple things. So remember that they have to go into a container. Now, don't type this in, but I do want to show you something. If you type in div, and you put that in, and then you go and you look at this later inside of your developer tools, it made a div. All right, I mean, you know, wow. No, but the point is, just so you know, let's say you didn't want a div. You wanted a container, but you didn't want a paragraph, you just didn't want anything. Guess what you can do? You can actually do that. And then it will not make anything. In other words, it won't make a div. It doesn't really matter for what we're doing. It really doesn't matter. So I will make a div, but I just wanted to show you that, all right, because at least once in a while there are things I mean to tell you that I forget to tell you. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do my H1, and I'm going to call this React Movie App, all right? And now, I'm going to put something in. Please do not type this because it's wrong, but I want to show you something. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in label for equal title, all right, and movie title, all right, and I'm going to say input type equal text, and then we're going to have some more stuff. Okay? So we'll have some more stuff in just a minute. But the point, what I'm getting around and what I want to tell you is this. That's a key word. That is a key word in JavaScript. It says it's a for loop. Remember, we are writing, this is JSX. This is, you know, basically embedded JavaScript that allows us to write HTML inside of here. So you don't write for, you write HTML for. That's how you put in a for. And I know it looks a little funky, just like when we say class name instead of class. This is one of those other kind of oddities that you have to just get used to doing. So let me put the rest in here. Input type equal text. And we'll immediately put our onChange in here. So onChange equal, and I think we even called it this yesterday, handle change. All right. And that'll finish that. Whoops. And we'll put in a button as well. That'll just say, in fact, let's put it over multiple lines here. It'll just say search. All right. Now, you probably already know this, but I'm going to save. I'm not going to run the program, okay? But if I do come down into here and I try to run, in fact, I can. You don't have to. You know, I'm going to get errors. But if I say npm start, one of two things is going to happen when I do this. It's going to show me errors there, and it might show me errors up here as well. All right? Fail to compile. Movie list is not defined. So there's problems already. Typically, when you find a problem like this, you can also go back to here, and you get the same thing here. All right, so in other words, it's going to show you the error both on the console and on the screen. That's not always the case. All right, it depends on where the error was found in the process, rather. Now, you may or may not have realized this, but right now, we are not bringing in the movie list, into our index.js file. That's why we're getting an error. So, before I do anything else, I'm going to bring that in. Okay? So in other words, I'm going to go back into our index.js, and in right here, I'm going to say import movie list from, and remember it's /components/movie list. Now, we're not going to do it now, but later we're also going to be bringing in the other one. So we'll be bringing in movie details, just so you know that. It's because our index file is going to need to be able to access both of those components. All right? I'm not even saying that's going to fix every error that we have, but I have now reconciled the two. And if you remember from yesterday, I had forgotten to do this. All right? So the export there allowed us to do the import here. And I mean, it's got to be one of those things where ideally at least, that just is starting to make sense to you. All right? Okay. So we're in here. One of the things that we're going to want to, or we're going to have to do in this page is keep state. All right? And in order for us to be able to keep state, we're going to use the React hook, use state. So up here where we've got import React, I'm going to put a comma here, and in curly braces, use state. All right, you'll notice that right now it's grayed out because we are not yet using it. We are going to be using it in just a minute, okay? In fact, really right now. So I'm going to go in and right up above the return, I'm going to hit enter twice, and I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to type in this. I'll put it in, and then we will talk about what it means in just a second. All right, now I'm going to put in another line. I'd like you to put it in, but for now, I'd like you to comment it out because it's something we're going to use later. But otherwise, this incessant warning is going to keep coming up that you've declared this and you're not using it. So I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to put in another one of these. Uses. Okay, so like I said, just leave that one there for right now. Okay, so let's take a couple of minutes and talk about what this is. I am setting up state right here. I am saying that I'm going to have two things that I'm going to need for my state. One will be referred to as search term, and when I want to change the value of search term, I will be calling set search term. But right now, there is no search term, and the search term literally is going to be what's in that search box, that text box that we're putting in. All right? So right now, I'm initializing it there to the empty string, so there's nothing in it. You don't even want to really initialize it to double quote space, double quote, or single quote space. We want nothing in there, and that's what's in there. Now later, this is going to hold the array of all of our movie results that are returned. And since it's an array, we put bracket, bracket in there, and it's an empty array. So again, we'll work with that later. Now, you can call this whatever you want. You can call this whatever you want. But the recommended way of doing it is whatever you call it here, you say set followed by that name over here. So search term, set search term, movies, set movies. That's not mandatory that you do that. If you don't get any errors, you don't get any warnings. But again, it's considered a best practice type of thing to do that. All right? So, all right, underneath this that we just added, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to write this handle change thing. So const handle change. I want to make sure, there it is. So that's this. Does this make sense to everybody? All right, so we're writing the handle change right now. And it needs the event. Whenever you need the event, again, you can call it E, which is the easiest thing to do. You can call it EVT, you can call it event, you can call it whatever you want. But typically people call it one of those three things, either the word event, the letter E, or EVT. One or the other one, all right? Now, you'll notice if you look right here, and I want you to see this, notice that this is grayed out and so is this, all right? What we're going to do is in here, it's one line of code, and after we put it in, watch how this will not be grayed out anymore, all right? So we're going to come in here and we're going to say set search term, and what we want to set it to is e.target.value. And notice as soon as I put that in, you can see now that set search term is no longer grayed out. What we are doing right there is we are letting the system know that with each character we're typing into that box, we want you to save it. We want you to save it in a field that's called search term. All right? And that's exactly what we're doing. All right? Now, am I right in assuming that yesterday, answer me this question, that everybody did go in and under Chrome you all added the React DevTools? Is that correct? Okay. Well, what we did yesterday is I had everybody come in here and do this. Let me get rid of that. Okay, that's what our app looks like right now, just so you know, and it's not going to do much. But yesterday I told people to type in Chrome React DevTools, like that. Okay? All right. So what I'd like you to do is to come in here and let's run the program. And what I mean is, I'm going to come back here, I'm going to clear, and I'm going to do my npm start. All right. Now, it did give me a warning, and it says that I've got search term that's never being set. Don't worry about that. That's totally fine. All right. Yours should look like, hopefully, it'll come up and look like this. Am I right? I see that Angie's did. Did the rest of yours look pretty much like this? If you get an error, you probably made a mistake typing someplace, so I can give you time to go back and change it if you did make an error. So yours works, Angie. Does yours work? Does yours work? And Christopher is fixing his right now. Okay, so it's good. All right. Now, what I want you to see, okay, is this. I want you to right mouse click right now on an empty spot in your run. So right mouse click and go down to inspect. Right mouse click and go down to inspect. We talked a little about this yesterday. We're going to talk some more about it right now. All right. Notice what's up here right now. Mine at least says elements, console, sources, network. Yours probably says the same, or if your screen is narrower, it probably says even less than that. Otherwise, it may say more. But I'm going to click this double greater than sign right here. All right, and I'm going to go down and I'm going to find components over here. I'm going to click on there. Now, hopefully yours looks like mine, that it shows movie list once you did that, so once you chose components. So what I want you to see is I'm going to click on movie list. All right, and now it's showing me. Should be there. See the state? My state is empty. Can you see that? But if I were to come in here and ask for example and type in Harry Potter, do you see how the state is filling up now? All right. So what I'm trying to show you is exactly what we just did. We just went in and we set the search term to be equal to e.target.value, which was exactly what we put into there. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So I can get rid of this now. I just wanted to show you that. That's all.
Mine isn't showing.
What isn't showing?
Components down here like it's showing.
No, yours isn't in there. Well, you might want to go back in and see if it was loaded. If you say it was loaded, I believe you,
Okay.
but it doesn't look like it is.
It opened it up again.
Yeah, if you're in a different browser, probably, yeah.
That's okay. Let's read it. There we go. Okay.
Okay. All right. No, not a problem. You figured it out, so that's good. All right. Now, as we go through this, remember, I've said this to you before, it's going to look a little crude, and what I mean is, I'm not doing any styling. I want you to style it to make it yours. All right? Just in the same way that next week when we start working on a major project, I'm going to be selling something, you're going to be selling something else. All right? The same kind of way. All right. So again, it's going to be your responsibility to style this, and you already saw that on what we had yesterday. All right. So this is all totally fine and dandy for right now, okay? But I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to go back to my program here. All right? And what I want to do is, everything in here so far is okay, but I want to write another routine in here that's going to handle my button click. So you can do this any way you want to, but I just like separating mine out. You've seen me do this kind of thing before. You do not have to do it like that. But I'm going to come in here and say on click equal, oops, and it will end up being a, I don't know why I'm trying to figure out why I've got a curly brace there. All right, I don't think I'm going to need one. We'll find out in just a minute, okay? Yeah, cut it out. Okay. All right, I don't know why I wrote it on here, but I don't think I need one. All right, and we're going to call handle click. All right, now, when we click this button, what we're going to want to have happen is we're going to want the system to grab that search term and then go out to the internet, and based on what we asked for, it's going to bring it in. Does that make sense to what I'm saying to everybody? So again, if you look on the screen, imagine for a second, did I save that? Yes, I did. So imagine that I came in here and did this. If you look right here, this is the URL that I put in. Just want to, you don't have to do this or put it in or anything else. I just want to show this to you. So that's the URL that I just put in, okay? And the idea is this. Batman is, let me make this smaller. Batman is what we ended up typing into, all right, the search bar, okay? And it's going to already know based on the code that we're going to put in what our API key is, all right? All right. I mean, that's the whole idea behind the movie list. If I put in Batman, it's going to give me all the Batman movies. If I put in Harry Potter, it'll give me all the Harry Potter movies, etc. Now, there's going to be problems with this, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit, all right? Okay. So, I've got this handle click, and I'm going to actually pass it that search term that we had up above. All right, so we're going to pass it search term. I guess I do need the curly. That must be why I put it in. Okay, so I'll put a curly here, and I'll put a curly on the end here. I think it does want them both, like that. All right.
Should we have an ending div tag there?
Should you have what?
An ending div tag with the button?
Ending div tag, yep. That ending div. We'll fix this in just a minute.
Okay.
No. All right, we'll fix that in just a minute. Don't worry, the whole thing will get fixed in just a second, okay? All right, I don't need this either. We've already got the word search in there, so yeah, that's what it should look like. All right, so what we just put in was this. If we were to go back and run it again right now, we'd get an error. The error would say, we don't have a routine written called click, handle click with search term, and it's expecting that because we're calling it. All right? So you could always go and run your program and look at it at any time, but even in here, handle click is not defined or whatever. It's going to give you usually something, and that is the error. It's not defined. All right? We are calling something on line 18 that we have yet to define. That's what it's telling us. So right below our handle change that we've already written right here, let's go write the next one. All right, so const handle click equal. Now we can call this here anything we want. All right, when we passed it in, we had to use search term because that's this. I think Gabriel may have said that yesterday. Yeah, I was doing it wrong. But in here, we're using it inside of the function. So we can call it whatever we want. In fact, it could be confusing to call it search term in here. So I'm just going to call it what it is. And that's movie, because that's what it is. All right? All right. So we're going to do that, and we're going to come in here, and we're going to write this routine. Now, yesterday, and we're not doing this, so don't leave and do this. Yesterday we used Axios. Axios is great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But for some reason, I had problems when I used Axios. I went back to the old tried and true Fetch. Fetch worked just fine. So I'm going to use Fetch. All right, I'd recommend you do the same thing. Now, just so you know, don't do this. We could type in here Fetch, and I could put in here HTTP, all that other stuff. But if you remember what we did yesterday, and that's what I'm going to do again, let me close that. All right, is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say const movie URL equal, and now I'm going to put all of it in. All right, so in backticks, http://www.omdbapi.com /?s equals, etc. You can see it as I'm typing it in. This name that I put inside of here, I'm going to put movie. Look on the screen, please. That name is this name. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, because that's the name that I've passed in. And again, that's the value that's inside of that text box that we're using. All right? All right. And then finally, I want to add to that, and API key equal, put your API key in here. I've got to go back and find mine, so give me a second. I'll go right back to where we just were. All right, so there's mine. Now, it would work if you did mine too, but you really should be using yours, because there's at least a fairly good chance that if you put this out there and a year from now somebody's looking at it, I may have changed keys. All right, I just don't want yours not to work. And it's interesting, I don't know, you weren't here yet yesterday, Gabriel, but the rest of you saw this, that when I went in, it said that I already had an account on my Rankin email, and I couldn't remember for the life of me what that was. About a half an hour later, they sent it to me. They said, hey, you tried to access this, and you may not know your API key. Here it is, which was kind of neat. So now I've got two of them. I could use either one of them. All right. So we've got that. That's good. Now we're just going to say fetch. And again, we're going to put in what we just had there, that movie URL. Oops, URL. All right. And remember, again, that returns a promise. All right. One of the differences between using fetch and using Axios is the next line of code that I'm about to put in right here. And that is this. Then response.json, which basically is letting us know that we're going to be getting the response back in JSON format. When you use Axios, that's assumed, so you don't need to put that line in there. Again, Axios is kind of a supercharged fetch. I don't know if Mr. Smith heard this lecture, if he doesn't necessarily agree with me or not, but that's, for lack of better words, that's kind of the way I look at it. All right? Okay. So I'm going to put another .then in there, and we're going to say this is a name I'm coming up with, just called result. And you can call it anything you want. All right? And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say console.log result. And again, remember, I have, to my knowledge, I have put no semicolons in here whatsoever yet. Nothing. All right? I'll give you a second so that if you're a little behind or whatever, maybe I type faster, I don't know, you can catch up. Everybody's caught up? Good. Good time to do a file save. You never know. Sometimes when you are running a program like this, you put something in that makes the program go into a loop or just go a little haywire, and I'd hate to have that where you had to go back and it didn't save for you. All right? Okay, so I'm going to go back to here. This is good. I always like to check this when it says compiled successfully. All right? And you may or may not have noticed this, but this is very much like when we ran NodeMon. And what I mean is if I come back in here and I save, you probably won't be able to tell, but it did it again. All right? Okay. Is that a big thing? Not at all, but I just wanted you to see that. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to go look at my program run again, which is in my React Movie app right here, okay? And again, you could type in whatever you want here, but I want something I know will return something. So I'm going to go put in Harry Potter again, and I'm going to click Search. All right? And now I don't want to be in Components, I want to be in Console. All right? And when you look on the screen if you would, please. Under Search, see what's there? It's returned all of the Harry Potter movies. You had to do that under Console. All right, don't do that under your Components. All right, and if for some reason it didn't come up, then when we get back, take a look at the code I put in and make sure that you're not missing anything. If you got an error, it'll be red, etc. Okay? So what I'm saying is this is the stuff that's in there. Now, you probably can't tell. Don't do this, but I'm going to move it back in a second. This is all the stuff that's getting returned. So notice it's returning the title, the year, the associated ID, the type of movie it is, the poster for it, etc. So it's returning a boatload of stuff. One of the things you're going to be responsible for when you take ownership of this and make it your own is you figure out what you want to show. I wouldn't recommend if there's 30 fields showing all 30. But what I consider to be important and what you consider to be important are probably two different things, and that's a good thing. All right? So that's what's in there right now. All right? All right. Now, if you look in here, this is returning an object. How do I know that? Because it's in curly braces, right? All right? But inside of an object called search is an array called search. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, this whole thing collectively is what I called result. But I'm going to change what we just did the console log on, all right, for right now. Right now, we're just doing console.log result. That's what we're saying. But we're going to go in and we're going to make a change to that. So instead of just saying that, I'm going to say, and you can do the same, console.log result.search. And this stuff is case sensitive. All right, so I want to say search in uppercase letters like that. I'm going to save. I'm going to go back and double check here again. Still says it ran it again, compiled successfully. That's good. All right, I'm going to go back into my run again, and I'm going to refresh here. All right, and I'm going to again, I'll just so there's something different, I'm going to put in Lord of the Rings. You can put in whatever you'd like to put in there. I'm going to click search. And now notice what I got back is much trimmer. If you look on the screen here, all right, so what I got back were just what's under that search array. You understand the difference? When I put in result, it gave me back everything that was in the object. When I said result.search, it only gave me back the search array portion of the result object. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, and I mean, we're going to get rid of this in a bit anyway. You can leave this in here. This is an excellent debugging tool. Plus, later when you go back in and you want to figure out what it is that you want to print out, well, now you've got a thing where you can take a look at that if you want to. All right? All right. So, that's all fine. That's all great. But, really, the user is not going to run our program, go in and right mouse click on the results and go into inspect and do this. All right? They're not going to be refined enough to do that. And in fact, if you gave them the, hey, this is all you have to do, they'd be like, no thanks, that ain't worth it. All right? Probably that's what they do. So what we're going to do then is we're going to go back into our program here, and you can leave this line or you can comment it out. It's totally up to you. All right? But what I want to put in here, remember, look up on the screen here, okay? What we want to do is, basically what we will want to do is we'll want to set our movies. Look on the screen. Now we've got this. Now we've got movies and set movies. This line before, now we can uncomment that line. That was line 3. Now you notice they're both gray, and if I looked right now, I'm not going to, but if I went back and I looked and ran the program, it would come back and tell me 2 warnings that I've got these 2 fields that are set, but are declared, but they're never being used. So we're going to use one of them right now, and that is we're going to come in here and we're going to say set movies, and the same thing to result dot search with a big S, like that. And as soon as I did that, again, you can see that the one up here on line 5 is no longer grayed out. It is no longer grayed out. All right? And that's great, not a problem. However, if we run it now not only do we not see it in our console, but it's not showing on the screen either. So now we've taken a program that wasn't that great, but made it even worse. So we're going to fix that right now, all right? So what I'd like you to do is underneath this handle click, we're going to write yet another routine. Now you can call this whatever you'd like. I called it what it was, which is returned movies. See that? Because these are going to be the movies that get returned. Now that should immediately in your mind bring up the fact, okay, there's got to be a loop in there, because if there's multiple movies, I got to make sure that I'm returning all of them. All right, and we're going to be using the map function in order to be able to do that. This is not long. It's going to just be an X number of lines, 7 or 8 lines. Right now we're going to type in here. So const returned movies, okay, equal movies dot map. I want you to, if you stop for a second, that movies right there, that one, that's this one. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, but when we use it in map, you typically pluralize it like I did. But now we want to use a singular version because this is going to be for each movie. What do we want to do? So I'm going to say here, movie, singular. That's not a mistake. All right, and I'm going to put in this. And we're, like I said, we'll type in a half dozen lines or so right now. All right, this is what we will want to return. Everybody hear me? This is what we will want to return. So I'm going to keep it simple for right now. So return. And here we do want a div. Now, do you all understand? Look at the screen if you would, please, here. This is probably going to be the type of area in here, or at least possibly. You're going to want to go and write CSS and add classes or IDs in there. Does that make sense to you? But again, I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about getting this thing done, not making it look pretty. All right, so inside of here, the first thing we're going to have is an image. And we're going to say source equal, and it's going to be movie.poster. That's the poster for each one of these movies. That's literally the poster, just so you know that. Now, don't do this yet. But if I do this, just so you know, if I do that, that's totally legit. Nothing wrong with that. However, I'm going to get a warning. Can anybody guess why I might get a warning? What am I missing in that image tag? An alt tag. Very good. So I'm just going to come in here, and I like to line my stuff up like little soldiers, but I'm going to say alt equal, and I'm just going to put in here what it is. Movie poster. Like that. Now that particular warning won't be there. I find when you get certain warnings, they're irritating. You may agree with that, you may not agree with that, all right? But this does not make the program run any better. Not putting it in there doesn't hurt the program. All right? Okay. So what we want to do next is we want to come in and double-click on that word return movies right there and copy it to the clipboard. Just the word returned movies. Okay? Then down on the bottom here, all right? Down on the bottom, let's see, at the bottom, let's see, the second return before the ending div. I think it's right here, but we're going to find out in just a second. At the bottom of the second return, i.e. the one with the button click. Yes, on click, so it should be this one. So right here, we're going to put in curly braces, returned movies, right there. All right, then do a file save. If you have any doubt, make sure you've done a file save in your index file as well. But I'm right here now. All right, now I'm going to come in here, and I guess, again, notice I got the compiled successfully. That's always good. And now I'm going to go back, and I may have this program running already. I want it to stop the run. I'm going to start it all over again. I'm just going to come in here and type in localhost :3000 and hit enter. All right, yours should look like this too. Let's try putting in Harry Potter and click search, and hopefully that's what you're going to get. All right. Now, yours, depending on the size of your screen, etc., don't worry. I've got my screen bumped up. Mine is showing at over at 150%, so I can make it real big if I want to. All right, but this is mine at 100%. So that's probably about what yours looks like. All right? But again, I just like it where you're able to see what we're working on here. Okay? Now, there's problems with this in its current form. And I just want you to see this. All right? Don't you do this. All right? But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to write something I know doesn't exist. All right? We'll handle that later. All I'm telling you is if you type in Harry Potter, that's the error you're going to get. All right? Just so you're aware of that. All right. Also, there's going to be other, at least potential problems in here. And we'll talk about those in a little bit. So just to show you that if I come in here and as an example, I'm going to run it again just to show you everything's cool, Harry Potter. Now, with most of the movies that are here today, they're going to have a poster. All right, they will have something. However, if I come in and type in here egg, I'm doing that on purpose, just the word egg. All right, that's all fine, but if I look, unless they've changed it, well, of course, make me a liar. But what was in here before is there were a couple of movies that came out that didn't have a poster. So in that case, it just gave you the blank thing. We're going to fix that too. All right?
No, I got an error with mine.
You got it
Yeah, I got an error when I tried starting it up.
when you tried starting it up?
Or start the NPM start, get it.
Okay.
When you say the blank thing, do you mean just like the alt part, or just this movie poster, or just nothing at all?
No, what I'll answer what I think your question is, and you tell me if I'm right or not, okay? That when you come in here, and we'll get yours in a second, Gabriel, but when you come in here and you put in a movie that doesn't have a poster, what's going to show is basically nothing. Or you're going to get like that image, you know, when there is no image, you get that little goofy icon type of thing, and we'll talk about how to fix that. I don't think we'll get there today, but we'll talk. We're going to lecture a little bit tomorrow. We'll talk about that then. Did that answer your question? Okay, and I want to look at yours. So I'll tell you what. Let's pause right here. It's 1:01, and let's come back, please, at 1:15, and we will pick it up then.